on for a very long time. He has become untouchable, he has become a bully, and it looks like everybody is so helpless around him. What makes it like that? Why are we not opening a case at that level as police if we have this kind of information to verify the authenticity of the things we hear? So we legitimately investigate him, especially on crimes against the state.
Yeah, well, I think majority of the things that are happening that Paul O'Sullivan is doing at the head office, and the authorized people that are closer, that are affected, that should be assisting us in such investigation, that should be acting on it. Myself, I have not necessarily pursued anything because I never really had much details of what. I will hear him talk about things. What triggered me, first time that drew my attention to him, when he published through the media, he published the photos of Gerald Patlane, who was the acting national commissioner. When he published the photos of Gerald Patlane's house when it was still under construction. And then I started asking myself a question, this house was finished about a year ago. How did he get hold of these photos? That was very interesting to me, that it's not like we're investigating now and you go to the place, there's construction, you take photos. But he shows a building, a structure that was under construction a year or two ago. And he started with a complaint later and he says, this man was building a house of this amount and this how he was paying for the house and so forth. If the Paul O'Sullivan is going to come and say the National Commissioner, and I said to the National Commissioner, we need to open a case against this. If Paul O'Sullivan is going to say the National Commissioner owns a property here and here and here and here and here, how does he afford all these properties? How did he get the information? So we always say that you get, I'm sure majority of citizens in South Africa experience that you get a phone call from a company and they market, they want to sell you something. And you ask them, where do you get my number from? They say, no, we got it from marketing, whatever things. The reality is our communication, our contact details, our personal information gets to be shared with third parties without our authorities. That's a reality. And nothing much happens on it. We see it with the marketing happening on our phones, and then we see with people that act to be activists like Paul O'Sullivan that are going to start publishing things that you wonder, how did he get hold of these things? And if those things exist, why didn't you open a case and get them registered? But he doesn't talk about the case. And what disturbed me the most, which I said to the National Commission, I don't understand how you keep quiet about this. When the National Commission was appointed, Paul O'Sullivan came out public and he said he was giving the names of people to profile. He himself said that the presidency gave him names of particular number of people to profile whether they are suitable or not. And he made the recommendation who is suitable or who's not suitable. And some of us didn't know that. When a national commissioner is appointed, it means his profile went via Paul O'Sullivan to profile. So if that is true, it therefore means the president had invited him to come and give advice at the presidency. And that becomes a serious risk for us. So, but I said to the National Commission, it affects you. If it was me, I was going to open a case. But I don't think this thing should be allowed because this man is saying he's now making a decision as to who becomes the National Commissioner, please.
General, I want to follow up on the drug cartels. Every time we're told of a big five, and a big five, my understanding is that it's a drug cartel. And when we are asking for the names, we're told of Matlala and Molefe, who are now in jail. But they're not in jail for drugs. They are in jail for a gun that is connected them to some celebrities and all of that. Meda and all. For Transnet, DJ somebody and. How do I conclude that these are the big five of drug cartels? Because they're not charged with drugs. And like you said, the drugs are a big problem. Not that others are not a big problem, but the drugs are the ones that are going to destroy the young ones. And when we are asked about this big five that deals with drug cartels, we are given two people who are in prison, but they're not charged with drugs. How do I conclude that indeed these are members of the drug cartel?
Oh, no, remember the details can be presented by the team as a covert operation. They have the details about it that I might not be able to talk to it. However, a strategy of arrest, of an investigation of a case. You might arrest a person, although in this case you are labeling them as part of Big Five, and the Big Five is involved in this drug syndicate. We might not arrest them for the drug specific, but the bigger investigation that talks about drugs is there, but the charges that we are putting against them are something else. It's a strategy we employ in the police to keep people behind bars until we're ready with a bigger case and we throw it in. A typical example is the same strategy we employed in KZN when we were dealing with the AKA case. And we arrested a whole lot of them for other cases, just to keep them in custody until we were ready with the main case when it was matured and we could identify all of them. And then we started charging all of them for the murder of our celebrities. Otherwise, they were already in custody. So similar strategy we are doing on these ones. We are taking them for other cases. We are adding any other case because they've got many cases. Safe to say, with respect to the case of the death of that employee at Vereeniging, Mr. Swart, it had nothing to do with drugs. It was tender issues there that involves Mr. Mleef. But the murders of these DJs is drug related. When the picture you're going to see when the matters gets to court is that this one thought he's clever by stealing this one's drugs and he starts selling them, and this one then killed him. Mm. So not to say the victim is a clean man on drugs. He died because of something that he did wrong to this one. So we have a consignment of over 200 million rand, for instance, if I use that as an example. The police in the organization is there to identify exhibit, you book it in the SCP-13 register in the police station, you leave it there. If it's such big thing that you transfer it to another safer storage place, which in this case will be a forensic lab if it's drugs. But it so happened that in KwaZulu-Natal at one stage, there was a consignment found in Durban. And our laboratory in Durban is at Manzimtoti, which is about 10, 15 kilometers away from Durban. And it did not have a facility to keep such consignment of drugs. And the next place where we take these drugs to is Pretoria, where we keep these drugs in the bigger storages. But it so happened that case that the drugs were entered into the SCP-13 register of a police station, booked out the same time, and transported south of KZN to Potchefstroom, and locked into the offices of the PCI that had no one guarding it. And during so-called alleged load shedding at night, there was a break-in in a big storage facility, a break-in inside that facility. There were bags of drugs, and there were also other drugs that were not associated with the ones that came, the consignment that came in. And there were firearms, illegal firearms that were also stored in there. But when the break-in happened, the only thing that was stolen was this specific consignment of 200 million rand of drugs and nothing else. You arrive at the crime scene, you will expect the crime scene is being cleaned, everything is stolen. But you arrive there, you find an AK-47 standing there, then you say, but why didn't they steal this AK-47? Then you realize the mission was not the AK-47. The mission was drugs. So they came to collect what is theirs, and they took it away. They left everything else untouched. And that made us conclude that it was a plan break-in. Because the question we are asking TPCI, why did you allow these drugs to come to your offices? And there's no one guarding. And you have load shedding, and this thing happened during load shedding. So we believe the information tells us that those drugs taken there ended up in Johannesburg, are part of the drugs that caused about majority of the murders that happened in Johannesburg. Because people took it and they started stealing, and they did not deliver them where they were supposed to deliver them. And that's what caused the unhappiness from some of the people. So yes, we are not talking about the drugs on the arrest of Mleef, but drugs is part of the problem that leads into the murder. The charge is a murder, but the reason is the drug that comes as a result. So there are many others. The ones that we are not mentioning is because we have not charged them with anything. That's why we're not comfortable to even mention them. But they are there.
Second last, General, MPs involved with these drugs cartels and criminal syndicates, because we are MPs sitting here, And when we're told MPs are involved with drug cartels and criminal syndicates, we start asking ourselves, who are those? And that's what the public is asking itself. And, General, apart from the registering a criminal case, as an MP, if I'm engaged in unethical conduct, there is a committee called Ethics Committee where I can be reported. I don't have to be investigated through intelligence or anything of that sort. Why has there not been an effort from your side or from anyone who's involved, who knows these MPs who are involved in drug cartels, criminal syndicates, report them to the Ethics Committee, including the judges? Because I get worried when judges are subjected to covert operations. It's a threat to our democracy. Any judge that gets involved in wrongdoing must be reported to Judicial Conduct Committee and will deal with that matter at that level. Not to be told that there's a judge who's going to come before me in the... I'm very sensitive around judges because once they are threatened, me and you are no longer safe, because that is the last arbiter. They are the ones who must safeguard us. So why are these people not MPs with drug syndicates, judges with drug syndicates, criminal syndicates, MPs Ethics Committee, judges JCC? Why are they not reported there and we left them in the hands of the covert operations and not anything above?
Yeah, well, majority of these things happening in Gauteng, Honorable Member, and the team investigating in Gauteng has not necessarily involved me. I got to share information, I get to know information because they're briefing me. And what I said earlier, what threw me into this mess was the closure of the PKTT, which was a KZN. Had they left it alone, I wouldn't be sitting here today because I would not have been privy to what's happening there. I became aware because they're updating me because they had my members there, and suddenly there's a closure of the team, and then I get to ask questions. That's how I start slowly. Although they are feeding me with information, but it remains a counterintelligence information, so they're not giving me the full picture. They are drips and traps, and I'm also not asking questions. I ask where there's a need, and they give me what I need to know. So how are they handling it going forward within that investigation? I said earlier, it's an investigation that is not only handled at crime intelligence alone, but is within the intelligence structure. That's how elevated it is. So how are they going to handle it further? I trust that they will follow those channels so that they can be able to deal with it. There are instances that the PKTT have registered complaints against presiding officers in KZN as based on their conduct that we have done. So when we talk about, yes, we use the name judiciary because we wanted to indicate the seriousness of what is happening. I said, unfortunately, some of the information that is at hand, it's a covert information, recordings that are there that I might not be in a liberty to just communicate. I listened to them. That's why I was able to say, okay, here's everything. This is a conclusion that I reached, to bring the attention to the leadership to say we have a problem. The MPs that might be implicated, and I must say up front, as I said about the minister, I'm not in a business to protect people, but I must also acknowledge that majority of the people that end up being implicated, I spoke about the letter of Minister Mkhwanazi of December, the majority of people that get implicated on things, they arrive there by default. They're not aware that they are getting there. So if you're going to be a political party or an MP and you get a financial support from someone, and the person who's giving you this financial support is not disclosing the intentions, you're going to get hooked. By the time you open your eyes, you are right in the web. You can't escape it. So sometimes it comes in that fashion without you paying attention. You invite, you stand outside your house, you call an Uber car, and the Uber come and pick you up. You have no clue who the driver is. He arrives there and he loads you in the car. You have no clue what's in the boot of the car. There could be a dead man inside, or there could be arsenal of firearms, there could be drugs in it. But when the police stops in the roadblock, who do they arrest? The driver, including you. Because we are found in this consignment of drugs and the dead body. So by default, you become, we can say we're a victim, but you're a participant to a crime. But you're not aware that you're a participant into a crime. So there are many MPs that might fall victim in that fashion. But there are some of them, few, that deliberately are part of the problem, and knowingly so. So we are dealing with those as part of the investigation that we are doing. So it's not that if we're to use percentage-wise, I cannot say that all the MPs are in the wrong, but definitely I think Parliament took a right decision by demanding to know who's financing political parties. But what maybe is missing is to know who's financing an individual MP. Because the MPs within the same political have got ambitions. They fund their own resources to do political campaigns so that they get into leadership positions in the political party. How they go about getting this money can be part of these criminal activities that we are talking about today. And they might not even be aware themselves because someone is helping them to elevate them to a position. So the party discloses, but the individual doesn't, because it's not everything that they disclose. So it's some of those things that might need to be looked at going forward. Thank you.
General, thank you very much. I just want to, in a respectful way, disagree with you on the decentralization of police, and especially the examples you are giving. Those were tribalistic divisions that took place in our country, where you had Leboa police, you had Venda police, you had Zulu police. It can't be that we decentralize the police and we go back to the ethical divisions of this country. We are a unitary state, and therefore we seek to unite and become one thing irrespective of ethnicity or the color of your skin. What you are suggesting may even play in the hands of racists who are now calling for independence of certain provinces away from our own country. And we think that perhaps you need to re-look into it. I agree there shouldn't be one individual with so much power. But how do we democratize it without decentralizing it? I think that's a debate we can have even beyond these walls of Parliament. Thanks, General.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. Honourable Member, I agree. The decentralization might not necessarily mean exactly to be like the homeland, as it were. I use that as an example. But then I went further and I said, there are many countries, first world countries, that are structured like that. That one country has got a federal system and they've got the local system in terms of law enforcement. And certain examples, honourable members, was that to have a person in a national office to worry about an assault case in a locality, it's something that we might have to look at whether can a local police that does not have to account here be able to carry such docket. So those are the things that we might need to start discussing. Whether is it something that falls under the provincial government, whether it's something that falls under the region, if it were, we have to discuss. But the ultimate, what I'm talking about, for instance, maybe using this opportunity, honourable members, is that we adopted the culture of organizing ourselves as an SAPS in line with the district model that the president came with. I've argued in the BOC, Board of Commissioners, many times that this is a wrong structure that we've adopted. Because we are structured to our point, our end result is court as the police. So however we organize, we must organize around the court, not organize around municipality. So it could be part of the things that says maybe the provincial delegation of this power might not work. Maybe we must look at how the NPA is structured, must look at how the justice themselves, courts are structured, because they remain national, but they are kind of independent at the provincial level with the jurisdiction of how they operate. So when we set up our own structures as police, instead of having district commissioners, we need to look at this district that covers at times 2 or 3 court jurisdictions becomes a problem for the performance of the police in terms of taking matters to court. There's some of the things we need to engage on, but research is needed. Whatever I'm proposing will need to be researched. And we're not going to make a reference to the homeland security, but we have to make a reference to the first world countries, how they do policing and what is good. And that is simple about efficiency, not about ethnicity at all. I disagree. I also agree with that one. We can't use the tribal issues that we did before. and the national legislation must remain the one that is a founder, regardless whether it is centralized. We must still